When my aunt was about 16, she was working at a grocery store and had a boss in his mid-20s. One day he called the house and was begging her to sneak out and hang out with him. She was considering it because it was her boss and she didn't want to say no. My mom, who is 2 years younger than her, always gets these incredibly spot-on gut feelings. She had one that night and begged my aunt not to go out with him. Thankfully, she listened to my mom and told him no, which made him really angry. He ended up going out that night and meeting another girl. He took her out to some cliffs and raped her and pushed her off. Somehow she lived through this and was able to get him sent to prison. I feel so sorry for that girl and so thankful for my mom and her gut feelings. Always trust your gut. I was probably 6 or 7 years old, and my older sister was 12. We had recently moved to a new place and decided to play Barbies on an elementary school ground, which is less than 200 meters from my home. A man came up to us, and I distinctly remember him swaying. He came out of nowhere and asked if we had seen his little black dog that he had lost. We said no sorry, and he proceeded to pull his pants down in front of us and started taking a piss. All I remember after that was him scratching his nuts or something and saying, "The flies are really biting tonight." My sister looked at me and said, "Run!" We grabbed our Barbies and ran home quickly. I remember telling my mom, and then we were taught some sort of martial arts and I never saw that man again.
My mom's friend was living alone in a small house. She noticed weird things like a batch of soup completed faster than usual, missing eggs, damp towels in the hamper when she hadn't used any, extra dishes in the dishwasher, and etc. This went on for months. She thought she was just being forgetful. One day she heard some thumping around in her attic and went to see. She found out someone was living there. There were small radio, hot plate, sleeping bag, pillow, food wrappers. She called the cops who came to keep an eye on the place. They ended up catching a homeless man climbing a tree, trying to sneak into her attic window. He had been doing this almost daily. He would wait for her to go to work, then go downstairs and help himself to food and amenities. But the guy was actually very respectful, so she didn't press charges. Instead, she let him move in, helped him get a job, and he lived in the attic until he got back on his feet. Creepy shit with a happy ending.
When I was 9, my brothers and I were playing in our street while our mom watched us from our porch. A man in his 30s was walking his dog past us. It was a very cute golden retriever, and my brother adored it. The guy was friendly and said he was checking out his new house that was being built down the street. My mom overheard this and politely asked us to come to the porch. The man followed behind us and introduced himself to my mom. He invited us to join him while he checked on the progress, and this sent my brother into a pleading fit so he could continue playing with the dog. My mom politely declined and said we had to go inside for dinner, which caused my brother to throw a massive tantrum. 1 week later, my mom shows us a newspaper article in which that guy was arrested for a string of child abuse. His dog was the bait, and he used the same lines to them as he did to us.
When I was around 4 or 5 years old, my mom used to do Ouija boards. Me and my elder brother shared room together. It was in front of the house. Me and my brother used to see a guy standing at the window, which was 2 floors up, just staring at us with budging eyes, bushy eyebrows, a mustache, and wearing a leather jacket. We would peek around the corner and scream our heads off until my mom comes up, and it was gone. We have seen this about 3 to 4 times. I still have a clear image of it in my head, and so does my brother. My mom contacted the local spiritualist church, and they basically told her not to do any more Ouija boards, as it can bring negative energy to your house.
In 3rd grade, a guy came to our school and held our class hostage. He had already killed his wife and was there to kill his kid. The administrators convinced him the kid was not there and to take one of their cars and leave. After threatening us multiple times, tying up the gym teacher, and dragging someone's grandma around with a knife at her neck, he finally left about 30 minutes later. The police caught him in Indiana on his way to kill his parents. He was convinced the world was ending and he was killing everyone he loved to spare them. The school did worse than nothing. They lied to parents, and no assistance was given to either the kids or teachers involved. The gym teacher never came back, and every time she would see one of the kids, she had a breakdown. Several of us have PTSD, undiagnosed, for decades. We just thought it was normal.
One night, I woke up and saw a woman behind the couch my brother was sleeping in. She had shoulder-length black hair and a white gown. I stared at her for a while, and no matter how many times I blinked or looked away, she didn't disappear. I eventually closed my eyes and tried to get back to sleep. Then I opened them, and she was gone. When I told my brother, he started crying, and my father explained that my siblings were my half-siblings, and their mother was murdered long before I was born, and they never found out who did it. My brother was convinced that his mother was protecting him. Years later, I was given my father's old computer, and when I was deleting files, I found a photo of her with shoulder-length black hair and the same white gown. It was haunting.
I was driving to work on a Saturday morning. I was in the middle lane when I glanced in my side mirror and noticed a car catching me quickly. I looked over as it passed me, and in the back of this coupe, a lady was banging on the window screaming for help. I sped up to them and she noticed me and started screaming again. I got behind them and followed them, and I saw him reaching back and hitting her. I called 911 and he sped off. As I was talking to dispatch, I caught up and he realized I was following him. He moved over in front of me and came to a complete stop. At that point, I didn't know if he had a gun, so I went around him and exited. Once he passed the overpass, I got back on and followed him, but I lost him because I couldn't keep up. Fortunately, I was on with 911 the entire time, and they had cops ready to pull him over. When I passed them, he was handcuffed on the ground, and she was sitting there. It was her ex who abducted her. It was scary to think about what he had planned for her.
My older sister was driving home one night after work and stopped at a stop sign. The moment she stopped, a man jumped out of the bushes and opened her passenger door. She reacted by flooring it. He was half in and half out of the car and ended up getting dragged quite a bit before he finally let go of the door. She drove the rest of the way home with her door hanging open, crying and petrified. I'm pretty sure she ran every stop sign between that point and home. It was pretty late, but I'm glad no one hit her or anything. Now, the very first thing I do when my butt hits the seat in my car is hit the lock button.